The truth is pure consciousness, and as soon as a notion arises in consciousness, the notion here, I know, as soon as you have the urge to acquire knowledge, then this gives rise to the ego sense. The Lord continued, this ego sense then gives rise to the notions of time and space. Endowed with the energy of the vital air, it then becomes jiva, or the individual. So here we're getting a story about how the individual comes to be. The individual thenceforward follows the dictates of the notions and slips into dense ignorance. So we get caught up in our notions. This forms our reality. Thus is the mind born in conjunction with the ego sense and the different forms of psychological energy. All these together are known as the ativahika body, the subtle body which moves from one plane to another. So at the point of death, this body takes us to another plane. Apparently it's a transitional body between the physical body and our body as a deceased spirit. But here we're going in the opposite direction. After this, the substances, the objects of the world, corresponding to the subtle energies of the ativahika body, were conceived of, and thus were the various senses, sight, touch, hearing, taste and smelling, their corresponding objects, and their connecting experiences brought into being. These together are known as the puryastaka body, and in their subtle state they are also known as the ativahika body. It's worth pointing out, I think, that the substances, the objects of the world, corresponding to the subtle energies of the ativahika body, were conceived of. So the substances were conceived of in accordance with our own deep tendencies, which are embodied in the subtle energies of the ativahika body. Thus were all these substances created, but nothing was created in fact. Only notions of creation come into being. All these are but apparent modifications in the one infinite consciousness. Even as dream objects are within oneself, all these are non-different from the infinite consciousness. Is a dream any different from the dreamer? We have no problem identifying the dream with the dreamer. But the mechanism which creates dreams is no different from the mechanism which creates our perception of the so-called waking world. The only difference is that we make that division between the waking world and the dream world. And it's a division which is arbitrary. Different cultures have made that division in different places. For some cultures, the dream world is more important than the waking world. The modern Western mind likes to make a very clear distinction in favour of the so-called waking world. But this is just an arbitrary cultural distinction. Even as when one dreams those objects, they seem to become the objects of one's perception, all these too appear to be objective realities. When the truth concerning them is realized, all these shine as the Lord. The infinite can be perceived in anything. If we contemplate any object, it could be something prosaic like a matchbox, it could be something inspiring like a sunset or a sunrise. We can get a sense of its origination in the infinite. However, even that is untrue, for all these have never become material substances or objects. On account of one's own notions of their being substances which one experiences, they appear to have a substantiality. Thus, conjuring up a substantiality, the consciousness sees the substantiality. We are convinced in the notion of external objects. And so this becomes our reality. It's like being hypnotised. We all have a good laugh at the stage hypnotist who brings some people up on the stage and convinces them that they're eating a nice juicy apple instead of a lemon, or convinces them that they're Elvis Presley. And apparently people that are hypnotised know they're being hypnotised, but they still go along with it. It still becomes their reality. And this is how we are. We're hypnotised by our notions. They're notions that have been fed to us to a large extent through the process of growing up and education. But we've got an inclination to believe in these notions anyway. Conditioned by such notions, it seems to suffer. Conditioning is sorrow. But conditioning is based on thoughts and notions, or sensual and psychological experiences, and also deep-rooted emotional tendencies. Well, these psychological experiences are deep-rooted emotional tendencies. However, the truth is beyond such experience, and the world is in appearance like a mirage. In that case, what is psychological conditioning? Who conditions what? And who is conditioned by such conditioning? Who drinks the water of the mirage? We're often being told that the world is a mirage, which we all believe in, hook, line and sinker. But who actually drinks the water of this mirage? It's like we're chewing gum, which has long since lost its taste, but we keep on chewing it anyway, in the hope that we're going to get another iota of pleasure out of it. So we keep on chewing, even though it's actually not very pleasant. This tasteless gum is actually quite revolting. But we keep on chewing it anyway because we think we might be able to squeeze another bit of tasty juice out of it. Thus, when all these are rejected, the reality alone remains, in which there is no conditioning, not conditioned. It may be styled the being or the non-being, but it alone is. Mental conditioning is illusory non-being, like a ghost. When it is laid, as in laid to rest, I would think, the illusion of creation also vanishes. He who takes this egosense and this mirage, known as creation, to be real, he is unfit to be instructed. There's no point in talking to this about somebody who says, look, the world is real. It's real. Let them carry on with it. Preceptors instruct only a man endowed with wisdom, not foolish men. The latter pin their faith and hope on the world appearance, like the ignorant man who bestows his daughter in marriage to the man seen only in his dream.